You replay the conversation for hours, not because you love conflict, but because some part of you still feels like it is not over. You think of the better sentence in the shower, the sharper comeback while making tea, the perfect explanation when you are finally lying in bed. And the strange part is this: sometimes you are not even trying to win the argument anymore. You are trying to feel safe inside it. If you rehearse arguments in your head, it usually is not random. It is not just overthinking, and it is not always anger. A lot of the time, it is your brain trying to finish a threat that never felt fully resolved. That is why the loop keeps returning, not because the moment was big on the outside, but because it stayed open on the inside. You can be walking home, replying to emails, washing dishes, and suddenly the scene starts again. Their tone, your silence, what you should have said, what they might say next time, what this means about you, what this means about the relationship. A small social moment becomes a whole internal trial. This is where it starts affecting more than mood. It changes identity. You stop asking, "What happened?" and start asking, "Why am I like this?" You begin to see yourself as weak for freezing, too sensitive for caring, too late for always finding the words after the moment is gone. And that self-talk changes your decisions. You hold back in future conversations. You pre-edit your texts. You become more tense around certain people, sometimes more agreeable, sometimes more defensive, sometimes quieter than you really are. Because the argument is no longer just about the argument. It becomes about your sense of self under pressure. Psychology has a word for part of this pattern: rumination. But that word can sound too flat for what this feels like. Because when you rehearse arguments, you are not always just circling pain. You are often doing threat simulation. Your brain is running practice rounds. It is trying to predict danger before danger happens again. And socially, danger does not always look dramatic. Sometimes danger looks like disapproval, embarrassment, being misunderstood, feeling small in front of someone. For the brain, especially a socially aware brain, that can be enough. This is why the loop can feel so intelligent, because in one sense, it is. Your brain is collecting data: tone, facial expression, timing, status, past memories. Then it asks a very old question: how do I make sure this never happens again? So it builds imaginary conversations, possible replies, alternative endings. It tries to replace helplessness with preparation. That is the part most people misunderstand. You are not broken because you do this. Your mind is trying to protect you, just in a way that overshoots. It learned that social moments matter, that words can wound, that being caught off guard feels costly. So instead of leaving the scene alone, it stays behind after everyone else has gone home. Like a guard locking every door twice. Helpful at first, exhausting when it never stops. The deeper mechanism is simple. The brain is a prediction machine. It hates unfinished threats, especially social ones. When something feels unresolved, your nervous system can keep treating it like an open tab. Not physically present, but not fully complete. Your mind becomes a courtroom after the person has already left. One part is replaying the evidence. One part is writing a better defense. One part is trying to prevent future humiliation. And the judge never quite ends the session. So the case stays active. A simple way to understand it is this: something triggers you. Your mind simulates the argument. You get a brief sense of relief, and then the habit grows stronger. First, something triggers the feeling. A comment, a facial expression, a memory. Then your mind simulates the argument. That gives a tiny sense of control. For a moment, you feel less helpless. But that relief teaches the brain that replaying is useful. So next time, it reaches for the same loop even faster. This is how mental rehearsals become a habit. Not because they solve the problem well, but because they reduce uncertainty for a few seconds. And uncertainty is hard for the brain. Especially if you learned early that peace could change quickly, or that people's moods needed to be monitored, or that saying the wrong thing had consequences. Then your attention becomes trained towards social prediction. You start scanning, reading between lines, preparing replies before anything even happens. This can make you insightful, but also tired, because a brain that is always preparing for friction rarely feels fully at rest. So what do you do with this? Not how do you force it to disappear overnight, but how do you stop feeding it without abandoning yourself? The first step is to name the unfinished threat. Not the whole story, just the threat underneath it. Ask yourself, what felt dangerous here? Was it being disrespected? Being seen as foolish? Losing control? Being rejected? This helps because the brain calms faster around specificity. A vague emotional storm keeps the alarm system active. A named threat gives the thinking part of your brain something clear to organize. Instead of saying, "I cannot stop thinking about what she said," say, "What stayed with me was the feeling of being dismissed." That shifts you from drowning in the replay to identifying the wound. The second step is to separate the event from your identity. Your brain often merges the two. One awkward interaction becomes, "I am weak." One missed sentence becomes, "I never know what to say." But events are moments. Identity is a story. And the brain, when stressed, tells fast stories. This matters because shame keeps the nervous system stuck. A behavior can be adjusted. A defective identity feels permanent. So instead of saying, "I froze because I am pathetic," say, "I froze because my stress response got ahead of my words." That is not making excuses. That is making the pattern accurate. And accurate thinking regulates you better than cruel thinking ever will. The third step is to rehearse boundaries, not battles. This changes everything. Most mental arguments are designed to win, but your nervous system usually needs something else. A clean exit, a clear sentence, a limit. When you rehearse clever comebacks, the brain stays inside conflict. When you rehearse boundaries, the brain learns containment. Instead of replaying 10 versions of revenge in your head, practice one sentence you can really use. "I do not want to continue this conversation if we are speaking like this." Or, "I need a minute before I respond." This works because stress narrows working memory. You do not need the perfect speech in a tense moment. You need one stable line your brain can still access when emotion rises. The fourth step is to move the loop out of your head and into form. Write it. Speak it into a voice note. Walk while thinking it. But do not leave it trapped in silent repetition. The brain treats inner loops as unfinished. Externalizing them creates a sense of completion. It tells your nervous system that this has been processed somewhere real. You can keep it simple. What happened, what you felt, what you want to protect next time. Not a long diary entry, just enough to give the experience edges. The goal is not perfect insight. It is reducing mental fog. The fifth step is to delay the rehearsal by 10 minutes. Not suppress it forever, just delay it. It sounds small, but it matters, because every immediate replay strengthens the habit loop. A short delay teaches the brain that the urge can rise without being obeyed. That is how behavioral patterns weaken. So when the argument starts replaying while you are brushing your teeth, say, "I will come back to this in 10 minutes." Then finish the task first. Often the intensity drops, and if it does not, you can return to it more deliberately. This builds response flexibility. You stop being dragged by the loop every single time it calls. Over time, all of this comes back to one simple truth. Your mind is not trying to hurt you. It is trying to protect you from surprise. That is why rehearsed arguments feel urgent. They promise preparedness. But peace does not come from preparing for every possible wound. It comes from teaching the brain that not every unfinished moment is a current threat. That one conversation does not define your worth. That freezing once is not an identity. That safety can also come from clarity, not just control. So the next time the argument starts again in your head, notice what is happening. Your inner courtroom is opening. Your protective mind is calling the case back in session. You do not need to fight it, and you do not need to believe every thought it brings. You can quietly say to yourself, "This is my brain trying to protect me by rehearsing pain." That one sentence can change the texture of the moment, because when the pattern becomes visible, it becomes less absolute. When you understand the mechanism, you stop mistaking it for destiny. Some people spend years thinking these loops mean they are too emotional, too weak, too haunted by tiny things. But often it means something else. It means your mind learned that words matter, that social pain matters, that being unprepared once felt costly enough to remember. There is nothing shameful in that, only something to understand, and once understood, something to retrain. Not with force, with steadiness. Because the goal is not to never replay another argument again. The goal is to stop building a home inside every unresolved one. Not every conversation deserves permanent space in your mind.